In the 1980s and 90s, with the opening up of the free market and subsequent domination of Chinese manufacturing, yarn spinning mills were closing down all over New Zealand. Today, Design Spun, based in Napier, is one of only 3 worsted wool mills in Australasia. They've survived by streamlining their operation, remaining flexible and adding value to their business.
Design Spun's a contract yarn manufacturer. We've been around for 30 plus years now, and our customer base is spread across a number of the sectors, hosiery, hand knitting and that craft market, and then also into the contract manufacturing and also commercial and the commission customer base. There's 2 types of spinning basically. One is a woolen spun system, which is an entangled fibre. I use the example when I'm talking to people of the Norsewear socks. It's got that wool grease smell in it. It's a short fibre processing system, whereas we're a long fibre and the fibre itself needs to be scoured to a very low grease content. So we deal with the fibre that has a long staple length. It's carded and combed and gilled, or combed if it's a worsted yarn. So essentially that's the difference between a worsted and a semi-worsted yarn. That's the combing process. Is it combed? Is it not? Worsted yarn, it's a refined yarn, so it's a better quality yarn than a semi-worsted possibly, depending on the fibre type that we're processing. We take fibre directly from the scour, so it needs to be down to a very low grease content. We then blend it, so that's blending for colour and for fibre types. So we could be doing alpaca or mohair, possum, any of those wool types. We could be blending for colour. It gets carded, which is the first stage in parallelising the fibres, lying them side by side. That fibre is now a sliver. That sliver gets refined, it gets combed and prepared for spinning. The fibre is then spun on a ring spun or a wrap spun system. It's then twisted to the number of ends that we want, or the thickness of the yarn that we're looking for, and then it's dyed and finished. It's either balled or coned for depending on what the end use is. After dyeing, the yarn has been under pressure. It's been wet, it's been heated, it needs to relax. So we do that through a caking process, what we call a caking process, which is a tensionless package, and that's just prior to balling. So the yarn is put through the caking machine, it's left to settle overnight, and then we ball it. We have the labels printed, and then we form them and batch them here. Every colour and every batch is different, slightly different, so it needs to be individually identifiable.
We call ourselves a specialty boutique spinner. On a daily or weekly basis, we're inputting 3-4 different lines a day of different fibres, different microns, different counts of yarn thicknesses, and that is where we specialise. We are ultimately versatile. The small commissions can run anywhere from a variety of different wool types, sheep breeds, through to alpaca, through to mohair. We've been asked to process vegetable fibres and plants in the past, but of course our plant isn't set up for things like that. But any animal fibres that can be converted into added value, that's the key phrase, to allow our customers to get better returns for what they're growing on their farms.
We have 23 employees. We do use some student labour over the holiday period. Our summer is our busy period because we're preparing for our customers' markets are in the winter generally, but the summer is our busy time. So we do use some student labour and temporary labour over that period. Anything that grows a hair, we could have a go at spinning. We've got some of the best technical knowledge in the world, and that's how we've survived. Combined, we've probably got in excess of 150 years of textile experience. We've got the best brains, textile brains, certainly in Australasia, and I would say much further afield. Our flexibility enables us to process, to make our machinery do some things that it wasn't designed to do. And that's, we've processed yak hair, we've processed Angora rabbit, we've processed a number of different fibre types, that some deer down, all sorts of weird stuff. But it's very difficult. Machinery is not designed to do it, and often the customer, when we actually quote them the price, is possibly not prepared to pay the actual price that it costs us to do it. We see that our growth in the future coming from our online business. Technology and the internet has broken down those geographical barriers. We've got an export focus in that space. It's something that's been introduced to us early on in 2011 in the digital age, when, funnily enough, the Rena disaster, out of adversity sometimes comes opportunity. We had the penguin story that kicked us off and gave us a taste of what's possible in that digital space. The idea was we needed all these penguin sweaters to stop them preening themselves and ingesting the oil that they'd been floating in. We pushed it out on our blog at that stage. We ended up with about 6,500 penguin sweaters. We wanted about a dozen, 2 dozen maybe. And that gave us a taste of what was possible in that digital space. So that's our focus, and that's where I see our growth. Some of the things that we've seen developing over the last few years is that with the deteriorating price of the coarser wools, I'm talking anything outside of the merino and that 30 micron range and down, is the value of the wool from a farm point of view has significantly reduced. And that's a problem obviously for the coarser wool growers. Therefore, some of the preparation and the wool handling that's going on in the sheds may be not as good as it was 5 to 15 years ago. We need a long fibre, we don't want any short fibre. Second cuts is a short fibre in the shearing process. We need to take that out. So essentially what that does is affect our yields. So instead of getting 85% or thereabouts or better, if we've got a fibre that's got a lot of this type of material in it, we're down 65, 75, depending on what it is. And also vegetable matter as well as what's taken out, but hey, depending on your farm, you can't do much about the veggie, but you can certainly do something about the way that you handle the fleece in the wool shed. Generally, commission customers look after their fibre. They want it to be, they have an idea of the product that they want to make, which is obviously from a marketing perspective. They've done some work in that space. They know where they want to end up. It's just a question of us helping them to get there.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.